meeting for Tuesday, September 10th, back to order, out of closed session. Mr. Terpstra, do you have anything to report?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, members of the council and the public. The council did meet in closed session prior to tonight's meeting to go over a general presentation on health benefits, as well as to give staff direction on 2 pending real estate matters, but no further reportable action was taken.
Thank you. We can have everybody rise for the pledge and remain standing for the invocation. Mr. Restuccia, you'll lead the pledge? Sure.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Is our pastor here? Mr. Terpstra?
Will do. Let's bow in prayer. Our Heavenly Father, we're so thankful that we have the opportunity to participate in representative government. We pray for this meeting tonight, that good decisions will be made for our community. Pray that you'll be with all those who participate in this meeting. We thank you again for the opportunity we have. In your name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Roll call.
Councilmember Mike Restuccia.
Present.
Dean Euchre.
Here.
Daniel DeGraff.
Here.
Vice Mayor Jake Parks.
Here.
Mayor Leo Zuber.
Here. Next item on the agenda is public discussion. This is the opportunity for those of you in the audience who wish to address the council on items that are not on the agenda. If there's anyone who wishes to speak, we ask that you come to the podium, give your name and address, and you'll be limited to 5 minutes.
Good evening, Council. I'm Jason Laughlin with State Assemblyman Heath Flora's office with just a brief legislative update. The legislative session is coming to an end this Friday. It'll be completely over, and all bills that need to be passed will go on to, if they are passed, will go on to the governor. Our bills, however, AB 550, which will be a veteran foster care program, has passed the assembly floor unanimously and is off to the governor's desk. In addition to that, AB 1732 has passed the floor unanimously, and that will give Manteca the opportunity to have a homeless resource center. That is my update. Please contact me or the office if you have any questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else?
Good evening, council members. My name is Dave Mendoza. I'm with the San Joaquin County Public Works Department. McGill Aguirre is here, and we're here to give you a brief overview and update on where we're at with the McHenry Avenue Corridor project that we've started for, it's been going on for about 2 years, and we're getting to wind it up. So he's going to give you an overview of what to look forward to. Thank you.
Good evening, Council. So again, my name is Miguel Aguirre with San Joaquin County Department of Public Works. Here to talk, I'm the resident engineer for the McHenry Avenue Corridor Improvements Project. Construction began back in 2017, and we're set to complete it pretty soon. I'm going to give you guys a brief background. Back in 2017, we started with the all right, so what I'm going to do is give you guys 3 points. What the project is, where we're at with construction, and what to expect with as we're set to conclude. So I know this is a vital corridor between Stanislaus and San Joaquin County and the adjacent cities in the area. The bridge is critical when traffic incidents occur on 99, and it's essential for commuters and for the movement of agricultural goods. These factors make good corridor improvements a significant project. This is a very important bridge. And it's been said that the bridge has no allegiance to either side and that they are monuments to progress. So this project involves engineering and construction innovation with benefits to both residents and travelers. Collaborating with Friends of Stanislaus County, Department of Public Works, SSJID, 6 utility companies, Caltrans, and others, Our department will be completing this $32 million project pretty soon. The project includes federal, state, and local funds, including contributions from Stanislaus County. The design was completed by AECom, construction by Myers and Sons, construction management by M&S Engineers, and our outreach consultant is AIM Consulting. This project has three main components. I will go through this, as we go through this presentation, you guys will see the Stanislaus River Bridge is the major component. There's also a SSJID Canal Bridge crossing at Myers Avenue, and the intersection of River Road and McHenry Avenue. The improvement there is that it's going from a four-way stop to a signalized intersection. And this project, as part of this project, we widened the McHenry corridor from 2 lanes to 5 lanes, and it's going to include turn lanes and bike and pedestrian facilities. The existing four-way stop intersection is being converted to a signalized intersection with safety lighting. There are also improvements to both River Road on the east and on the west. I will speak more of that critical component pretty soon. The remaining work and at the location and its impacts are the main reason why I wanted to speak here today. Lastly, the bridge over SSJID Canal was replaced with widening of the roadway, and it goes without saying that replacement of the bridge structures addresses all deficiencies and ensures compliance with current seismic requirements. I'd like to talk about the progress of construction and some of the hurdles that we overcame during the past 2 years. As I said before, we started in 2017. Construction began, and we anticipated significant traffic issues. The intersection always planned to be a signalized intersection, but that comes at the end of the project. One of the team's main innovations in this project was to convert the existing four-way stop to a temporary roundabout. Actually a beanabout, since it was a little offset. And it facilitated the much better flow of nearly 13,000 vehicles per day. And my current estimate is it's gone up to around 16,000. So at first there were skeptics, but they became converts, and now we see increased traffic flow in the area. Perhaps the greatest aspect of the temporary beanabout was its flexibility. You'll notice that in the videos it changes shapes as needed during construction. We're able to transform it from a bean shape into a circular shape as the project progressed. One of the innovations of this project was that demolition of the old bridge was made possible by constructing a pile-supported shield directly underneath the bridge, and that allowed demolition to proceed without endangering fish or blocking river traffic. High river flows resulting from unusually large rainfall from the snowpacks of 2017 and earlier this year were also a challenge and caused some delays. While debris flows were a constant concern down below, up top the crews were busy pouring concrete on the large bridge decks. The SSJID Canal bridge replacement was scheduled to take place over 2 years, and there was also some innovation that happened. So we worked together with SSJID and did it all in 1 season. This effectively moved up the completion of the project from 2020 to 2019. Another noteworthy aspect of this project is the outreach. We knew that at the beginning there would be impacts to many people. The county took proactive approach through community meetings and early notifications of over 3,000 property owners. We created a project website which contains photos and videos of construction, up-to-date traffic information, as well as some fun information videos. The website, improvemchenry.com, provides email updates, text message service for traffic updates, and a project hotline. It's also important to note that the hotline phone number is 209-497-5111, and to receive automatic text updates is you have to send the word McHenry to the number 41411, and you'll be automatically signed up to receive the text updates. As you can imagine, social media is now a common tool for getting the word out, and our team has created frequently updated, our project created and frequently updated both both Facebook and Instagram project websites. So now we're about a month away from completion. One major remaining construction effort is to replace the roundabout and convert it to a fully signalized intersection. This is where you can help out. While we've made every effort to minimize the duration of this conversion, the fact remains that drivers will experience significant delays while the signal is being installed, maybe as much as 30 minutes to clear the intersection. We estimate that this will take between 2 and 3 weeks, beginning around October 7th. And around that time, the road will remain open. However, we're unable to go directly from the temporary roundabout to the signalized intersection immediately. I mean, there's a gap in between. So for that gap, we're gonna have to go back to a four-way stop. And through our outreach consultant, AIM Consulting, we're doing a media blast to warn drivers to stay away from the area for a couple weeks. We're also coordinating with the City of Modesto's Public Information Office to just get the word out. You know, there's gonna be a lot of congestion caused by the four-way stop. There's gonna be a lot of delays. This is our own valley version of Carmageddon. The intersection was always designed to be signalized to accommodate both current and future projected traffic. The permanent roundabout would have been very challenging to fit in this area because we're confined with the Stanislaus River and the SSJID Canal. Once in place and operational, the intersection will perform safely and efficiently. So if I can leave you with any parting thoughts, I'll please pass the word on to your constituents. Take an alternative route for a few weeks and come back to see your tax dollars at work. See what public works departments can deliver to you. And I would also like to mention that we're making similar presentations to both County Board of Supervisors, Stanislaus and San Joaquin County, and also City Councils of Modesto, Riverbank, and Escalon. Something else that will remain, we'll decide in later this month when we're gonna hold a ribbon cutting ceremony. That'll probably be early November. All right, thank you.
Thank you. All right.
Quick question, we're not supposed to talk to in public discussion, but, so you said an alternative route, so there's 99's always backed up and River Road's always backed up. What's your alternative route? So people know, because I can tell you, nobody's gonna be able to figure it out themselves.
Yeah,
Through Oakdale?
99 would be the alternative route.
Okay.
He didn't say it was gonna be fast. He just said alternative route.
Any other questions?
Any other questions? Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Just leave the bean about, man.
There you go.
Don't put the signal in.
Today is Monday, September 10th, 2019. I'm in front of the Ripon, California City Council. My name is Mary Lynn Wheeler-Reynolds. I am the outright landowner and land purchaser of the dirt lot number 15, which I purchased approximately October 2000. I purchased approximately 3/4 acres for $5,000 from Mark Wilbur of McRoy Wilbur Communities. Approximately 6 months later, I refinanced a townhouse, 3419 Prince Albert Court, San Jose, California, 95132, which I purchased after I graduated from San Jose State University as a single woman. That constitutes separate property. I've been in front of this council before, and I provided the actual separate property law, so you know that it's not something that I'm making up. In the state of California, there exist separate property laws. Although the state of California does have community property laws, it also has separate property laws. I provided that information to this council more than once. Now, after I refinanced my property as a single woman, I used the funds from that property to build upon Lot 15, which was a dirt lot, that I purchased fair and square for $5,000 from Mark Wilbur. Somehow, Mark Wilbur did not put my name on it as on title by myself. And I think it's quite interesting because I don't think it was an accident. He put my estranged husband's name on it, Philip Sheldon Reynolds, who did not put a cent down on that property. He did not buy the land, Lot 15. I bought the land. Mark Wilbur was supposed to put only my name on the title, and by his not doing so constitute fraud. He was not supposed to put my estranged husband's name on it. I bought that property utilizing a separate account. Now, you need to become familiar with separate property laws. I mentioned that already many times. That constitutes separate property. I bought the property as separate property, built upon it as separate property, and I should not have been arrested by Ripon City Police Department officers for trespassing on land that I purchased inside a residential building that I built. I built 1221 Sapphire Court, Ripon, California, 95366, with my own independent funds. I should not have been arrested for trespassing. I have repeatedly been arrested for trespassing, ironically and asininely. And I have reported Ripon Police Department to the U.S. Justice Department Criminal Division, and I continue to do so. Now, what I've requested, I've been requesting records. I requested records from Christina as of last week. She received my letter. And I want copies of all the arrest records, every single one. I want copies of every single restraining order. I have a restraining order right now. Here's a pink one. One, you cannot read it. I want every single restraining order legible and readable. I can pass this around. You cannot read the names of the judge that signed. I want to know the judge's grounds. You're not supposed to arrest people unless you have solid, legal, legitimate grounds. This is faded. You can hardly read it. I want every single one. I want copies. I want the video cam for every single arrest. I want the names of every single arresting officer. I want affidavits from every single officer. You're supposed to have a signed affidavit indicating that whenever you get a restraining order, you're supposed to have proof. You're not supposed to just pick someone up off the street. Ripon police officers came into my house and pointed their weapons at me, at my bathroom. I was in my restroom. They lined themselves on top of my staircase, pointed their weapons at me, and yelled for me to come out of my bathroom, a bathroom that I built. And I consider you guys to be savages, sadistic, uncivilized savages, to come into somebody's house, call them out of their bathroom that they built, pointing your guns at me. Now, what if I had come out with a brush in my hand? What would you say? You would say you feared for your life. That's the white lie you always tell people. You feared for your life, and you would have shot me to hell, to smithereens, in my own house that I built.
Ma'am, your 5 minutes are up.
Yes, I want all the documents.
Is there anyone else?
My name is Loretta Peavy, and I'm a homeowner at 893 Roos Road. In March 2019, we had a fence built on the side of our house, and we're being cited now. Sorry, I have trouble with public speaking, but we're being cited now to remove the fence. We had a code enforcement officer came by on a complaint from another resident, they won't tell us who, And the code enforcement officer cited 3 residents on the corner of Roos and Amy. And it was myself, the across-the-street neighbor, and the guy behind us. I've owned this house since 2012. I put the fence up this year. I have a new puppy dog, and I figured she needed a place to run. But also, more importantly, I work nights, and I sleep during the day, and I need some privacy. And that whole entire side of my house is street exposed. So I figured, put the fence up. We had come to the city the year before to research what the law was for how close to the sidewalk we could get to put the fence up. And we were told on 2 separate occasions during those investigations that we could put the fence up 10 feet from the sidewalk. So we hired a contractor this year in March. He came out and built the 10-foot fence. It spans 70 feet of our side yard, because we live right on the corner. And it comes out 8 or 9 feet from the house. So we get this citation, and it says we need to move the fence to 20 feet from the curb, or from the sidewalk, which basically obliterates the entire side of that house, because my house is set back 20 feet. So I would not be able to put a fence up over there at all. But I have 20 feet of space over there to utilize, and I can't even utilize it because the code enforcement says that there's a ordinance in the city that says that I can't have a fence on that side of my house that I own, the property that I own. The 2 other neighbors involved, the one directly across the street is renting the house. The house was sold this year with the fence existing, and they're being told they have to push it back 6.5 additional feet. They have an existing pool, palm trees that are fully grown right next to that fence. That fence has been there for years. When I moved in 2012, that fence was there. And here it is 2019, and he's just now being cited for it. The guy that lives behind me is here tonight, and he also was given a citation. And when I moved in 2012, his fence was there. He purchased his house in October of 2018, that fence existing. He's made modifications in his backyard that would prevent him from moving that fence the additional 3 or 4 feet. They're telling him he has to move it in order to be within code. So then we come down, and I hired a contractor. I didn't put the fence in myself. So this contractor came out, Mike Howlett Fencing came out and did it for us. And so we put our trust in that contractor to make sure that it was within code. So after we get the citation, my husband and I decided to investigate what the city code is and why. So we come down here to the city offices and we start asking around, and they said, oh, no, it's 10 feet. Oh, no, it's 20 feet. So nobody in the city knows what the code is. Come to find out, Mike came down as well. He found out that different subdivisions in the city have different codes. How is the city code enforcement officer going to enforce a code if my subdivision has a 20-foot allowance, but the one over here across the highway has a 10-foot allowance? And it doesn't make any difference. It doesn't make any sense why there's such a difference between the city. So what we would like to see is some sort of research into standardizing that code from the city, from the city standpoint, so that when the layperson goes in and is an offense contractor and gets some information from the city personnel here, that we're all getting the same answer. So that's pretty much it.
All
Thank
right,
you.
thank you. Yep. Is there anyone else?
Good evening. My name's Dwayne Murray, and I reside at 1156 Robert Avenue here in Ripon. My partner and I have started a hot dog cart business. And Ripon is one of the cities that we applied for and received permits to operate in. Yet every time we try to set up, we get chased off telling us we can't be there, we can't do that. So we started researching, read your municipal code on street vendors. In your code, you have 2 definitions of vendor. Recently, almost a year ago, last September, the governor signed a law, SB 946, that specifically deals with street vendors and the regulations that cities can put on them. Your code, as best as I can read it, has, like I said, 2 definitions, and the state law has 3. Your code, way I read it and understand it, only deals with vendors and special events. You're not talking about a day-to-day vendor in the city in these regulations. So they're kind of confusing. Every time that an officer approached us and told us where we were, we couldn't be there. And the police were wonderful. Don't worry, Chief. They were all great. I'm not going to get into that part of it. All I know is they didn't arrest us when my partner even told them, well, then arrest me so we can find out. But one of the things we did ask was the officers would tell us, well, we went back, they talked to the city attorney, and so we asked, let us talk to the city attorney. Lo and behold, we were told we could talk to the city attorney if we paid them. So I've got to pay to talk to the city attorney to find out why I'm being threatened with citations and I can't perform a business in your town. The law is very specific about some things. One of the things it's specific about is cities are allowed to adopt their own programs so long as they comply with the state law. The city of Ripon's had almost a year. I ask that you start working on it and allow people to earn a living. We've set up in a couple of places where safety's not an issue. You do not want us parking our cart on your sidewalks. It's too big. Your sidewalks will not afford any street vendors the right to have a cart on the sidewalk and still, as we were informed by the city attorney's office, still allow a person in a wheelchair to pass us. In other words, no blocking ADA, okay? I can agree with that. So we put our cart, because it's on a little trailer, we park it on the street right next to the curb, and we sell dogs out of it. We've got a cart we put up at the Manteca DMV over there. Nobody in Manteca's bothered us. In fact, the police come buy hot dogs. The fire department comes and buys hot dogs. DMV buys hot dogs. But every time we come to Ripon, we're getting hit with a stone wall. Another thing is, one business owner in town allowed us to set up in her business, and she has one of those businesses right on Main Street that's like a house, but commercial zoned, and she's running a business out of us, that we could set up in her yard. We were told we're not allowed to do that. There's a code against it. I read the municipal code. I went back to the vendor code. There's nothing in there talking about it. I can understand maybe a civil code talks about I can't set a business up in the front yard of my house in a residential area. I can understand that kind of a code, but I haven't found a code that says I can't set up my business that's legally permitted, licensed, everything we need, with the permission of another business owner on their private property. So I'd ask that you look into that too. It sounds like with other people up here, we've got a lot of issues with city codes and conflict. So I ask that you please look at that for us and let us sell hot dogs and make $1. And we sell good hot dogs. They're not cheap. All right? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
My name's Jeff Sanford, 400 Golf Circle East, Manteca, California. I am the other owner of Camino Dogs. So he pretty much said everything I was going to say, so I don't have to say too much. 3 times that we've been to town, we've been asked to leave or to shut down. 3 times I've already had things cooked, and lost money every time. Leo Sanchez, Officer Sanchez, came out the first time. I asked him why I was being asked to move. Couldn't really give me a reason, didn't really know, but took my paperwork, took pictures of everything, went back to the city. Someone at the city made the decision to shut down. So I shut down. Second time, I had moved from the property, that private property that I was on, to a second location. And again, cooked stuff. Couple officers drove by, and after I got stuff cooked, here comes the third one, you gotta go. So the last time was on this last Sunday. I was told, I talked to somebody at the police department and the city and was told that I could set up anywhere in Michelin Park. So about 12 o'clock Sunday afternoon, I went over to Michelin Park, cart fully loaded with hot dogs, asked the people at the ball field if there was a problem, they had a problem with me setting up anywhere there selling hot dogs. No, we don't have a problem with it, but I don't know where you're gonna park because the parking lot's pretty full. You might park down there by the water fountains. Before I ever got to the baseball people, an officer, Will, last name was Will, I believe. He was driving out as I was driving in. Stopped, waved him down. We're gonna have a problem if I set up here? No, but your name comes up in briefing a lot. I said, yeah, well, imagine that. So he said, I don't see that there's a problem, but let's go check. So he actually drove in, talked to the people at the ball field. It was fine. 45 minutes later, after I get set up, he comes back and says, there's a problem. They have a concession stand inside. You're competing with them. Okay, so how am I supposed to get permission from the city to be in the park and from the police department to be in the park, and now we have a concession stand that's involved? And I understand the concession stand part of it. If there's a concession stand, I shouldn't really be there. That's competing with them. He didn't run me off that day, but said, you need to be at the city council meeting on Tuesday. And this stuff needs to be addressed, and we need to figure out some solution to it. I'm here to do business. I'm not here to cause problems. So I would appreciate if you guys would look into it and get back to us. I tried to get a hold of the city several times, tried to get a hold of the lieutenant several times, sergeant several times, and was told they were always busy. So I packed up my stuff and left. Now I'm asking for you guys to look into it and get back to me. Thank you.
Anyone else?
Hello, my name is Mike with Mike Hallett Fencing, and I live at, on Jacktown Road, and forget my address, but anyway, it's one of those to where I am the contractor who built their fence, and before I started my business here in town, I went down to the city, and I walked in and I asked, you don't know anything until you know something. And so each town we work in, they all have different codes. I went into the city office here, and I said, hey, I need to learn something about your codes. And the gal said, what do you need to know? And I said, I need to know the setback on corner lots on the side of the homes, how far back do we gotta be? And she says 10 feet. And she didn't hesitate. She didn't say like, well, let me find out. I took it for granted that she knew what she was talking about. So with that, I told people, hey, I could go 10 feet back, 20 feet in the front. And so that's, pretty much all the other towns, Modesto, Salida, Ripon, Manteca, Lathrop, all the other towns in the area are all 10 feet on the side of the homes. And so me being the contractor, wanting to know, thinking I knew my business, I thought 10 foot was the guarantee. And then on a home, if a home, it blocks the vision of driveways, I could understand it. But on corners like they have, there is not a driveway on the entire block. Nowhere. It blocks nobody's sight. Now, common sense would tell you it's no problem. So I would ask that you guys look into that and set a code so whenever a customer asks me what is the code, I know what I'm talking about. So if you would, look into that and come to a conclusion. So with that, thank you very much.
Thank you. Anyone else? Seeing none, we'll move on. Next item on the agenda, Approval of the minutes for the meeting of August 13th.
So moved.
Oh, I got it. Just a second. Let me get here. All right, minutes are approved. Next item is approval of the agenda. This is the time I need to know if anybody's pulling any items from the consent calendar.
I'm pulling 1.20 or O and 1.3A, please.
Mr. Parks, do you have any?
None.
Mr. DeGraff? Mr. Euchre? I've got three. 1.2E, 1.4A, and 1.4F. Right, you got them all?
1.4 what?
F, A and F. So it's 1.2E, 1.20, and 1.3 what? What was yours, Mike?
1.3A.
1.3A, okay. All right. Can we have a motion to approve the agenda as amended?
So move.
Second. Hang on, go ahead and take it.
Oh, I will, no. You didn't get the whole word out of your mouth, so.
All right, next item. Can we have a motion to approve the consent calendar as amended?
So move.
All right, now we'll take the items that were pulled. Mine are pretty quick. 1.2E. This item shows up every once in a while, and I guess I need a refresher. This is the storm drain model support. What is that?
That's me. Ripon has received several flooding complaints throughout the community, most of which occurred during that extreme flood event we had last year. So to better understand Ripon's storm drain system and where the system was performing inadequately, we hired MCR to help us do an analysis of the storm drain system and figure out where the problems were, why they were occurring, and what we could do to make our system perform at a 2-year, 24-hour storm event, which is what storm drain systems are modeled for. And so they helped us do the modeling, kind of gave us pointers if we do decide to change the line size or a different storm drain event and how to model in that sense. And then they created a report for us showing us what we ultimately need to do to enhance our system. And so they've finished work, and the total contract price is the $12,000.
Okay, that was gonna be my next question. So we're done?
Yes.
Okay, all right, thank you. Mr. Restuccio,
Yeah,
1.20.
Oh, correct. So the question I have, this was mandated by the state, right? So is this one of those unfunded mandates where we don't get reimbursed, we just get to spend taxpayers' dollars on something they're forcing us to do? Yes. Okay, just wanted to be clear.
Well, and my question is, what are we being forced to do? I sell the invoice, it's like $100 every time somebody does something. What are they doing for that $100?
Yeah, so just to also point out, those fees are private development fees, so they're being paid for by private development. So that's coming out of, when they pay their permit, they have to pay that. So that money is coming, that's where that money is coming from. And
So
yes, it is.
It's coming to us, we're not sending our money out.
We pay the land surveyor, and we receive a reimbursement through the permit. We charge the private development a permitting fee to get reimbursed that
All right.
cost.
Still costs
And they're checking, what, to make sure we don't mess up survey monuments and stuff?
Yes, so if we have that fee specifically is if we have a potential to disturb a survey monument, that's the only activity that fee is going towards. If there is a potential to disturb a survey monument, then the private developer would need to hire their own surveyor to locate that monument and do a corner record to replace that monument after construction.
Okay, thank you. 1.3A, Mr. Restuccia.
Yeah, thanks. So I think I got this cleared up earlier, because I don't think it's clear in the document. So what the document read was we were gonna establish the price quarterly. What isn't, and I understand we're gonna pay maybe 2 or 3 invoices at a time. What wasn't clear in there, to me at least, and maybe I need to read it 4 or 5 times rather than 2 or 3, is that we're gonna pay the difference between what the district gets, or school gets, or whoever gets it, and $60. So if there's 3 invoices 1 month, and there's a different price that they get, we're only paying that difference. We're not setting up the price at the beginning of a quarter and then reimbursing the difference based on a price set at the very beginning. So if the price moves around, each invoice gets the difference.
Correct.
So if one invoice is they get paid 10 and we're gonna owe 60, we pay 50 on the tonnage for that. But if the next invoice the same month happens to be $20, we pay 40.
Exactly. The city won't pay any more than
Right.
a
So
maximum
does that
city
say
goes.
that in there? I couldn't find it. It just says we're gonna establish it at the beginning of each quarter, but it doesn't say that that's exactly what we're doing.
Someplace
I
in one of
think-
the paragraphs, there's,
What
it's
what's-
in there.
Yeah, it's going through that example, but it's saying the exact amount of the contribution shall be determined by the city quarterly, meaning they're gonna do that quarterly.
Right.
Based upon the then current price of that recycled cardboard. And then it goes through those examples. So basically what it's saying is at no given time would we pay more than $60, but it would be.
But it's gonna
just a
change,
delta.
you said it quarterly, it could change 2 weeks later, 3 weeks later. We're paying just the difference.
Exactly.
That wasn't clear to me. If that's the intent and that's what it says, I'm okay with that. I didn't read it that clearly.
Well, we can certainly take a closer look at it in light of your comments if we need to make a change, but it does put the city in the driver's seat in terms of determining the amount, and that's probably the most important thing. But if we can make it clear, we should.
Okay. Well, it just wasn't clear to me.
Then it would be approved subject to clarification as needed.
Yeah, I'm okay with it.
And just to be clear, that these are market rates, are they published anywhere? I just don't want whoever the school district is dealing with, rather than pay you 10, we're just gonna pay you 5, because we know the city's gonna make up the difference.
Yeah, they're market rates. that
Okay.
they-
Yeah, I just wanted to make sure it was that, so.
Okay, 1.4A. Do we know what that's the account that's generated by green fees, isn't it? The Jacktone account?
Yeah, part of the lease arrangement we have with Jack Tone Golf is we put a percentage into a reserve fund.
Okay, so do we know how much is in there?
Yeah, it's, as of July 1, it was $250,000.
Okay. Just wanted to make sure we weren't spending money we didn't have. And 1.4F, sort of the same question. This is for some work on the Stockton Avenue project. How are we paying for that? Is that grant money, or is that street and road money from our funds?
At this point, for the design phase, it would be funded through street and road, our street and road operating fund.
Okay. All right. Any other questions? All right, I need a motion. We can approve all 5 of them at once?
I'll make a motion, we approve all 5 at once. With the wording change, or at least look at the wording if it needs to be changed.
Yeah,
Okay.
that one be clarified if necessary. Okay. All right, moving on to, yes, did you? Oh. We're under, proclamation. Is there somebody here from CalFreight? Come on up.
Cole, your last name is Sanders too. You gotta get up as well.
Where's your dad?
Not a problem.
Tonight, one of the items on the agenda is a proclamation that is honoring California Freight. CalFreight's over here in the industrial area. CalFreight has been in business since 1989. They're a logistics service company that offers a wide range of transportation and transportation-related services. Some of these, I'm gonna read them. Full and less than full truckload transportation. They do have an extensive warehousing program, freight forwarding, intermodal service, CalFreight utilizes the region's pool of qualified and talented labor to support the growth that is needed to meet the increasing needs of the local food and beverage businesses, as well as other areas of the local economy. They have 288 full-time employees, and they're growing. Since January of 2018, they've hired 49 new full-time employees. And in the past 12 months, the company has invested over $6 million in equipment, tractors, trailers, and that sort of thing. CalFreight is being recognized by the Greater Stockton Chamber of Commerce, I think it's tomorrow, isn't it? Yes, sir. Yeah. With a green business certification, and on behalf of the city council, as well as the residents of the community, we want to thank them for the support and presence they have in the community, and congratulate them on receiving their award.
Thank you, Mayor.
On behalf of myself and my brother and California Freight, I'd just like to thank the mayor and the council for our recognition and our recent accolades to California Freight. And we look forward to our continued growth and partnership with the city throughout the years.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Congratulations. Okay. Ordinances. 2A, ordinance, deals with dimensional regulations and restrictions on recreational vehicle parking. We've been dealing with this for a while, Mr.
Yes,
Zeiderbart.
thank you, Mr. Mayor. We'll go back to the beginning on this. I'll just kind of start where we left off. At the last city council meeting, a public hearing was held on this topic, as you recall, providing the public an opportunity to comment on the proposed changes to RV parking and RV covers. At that meeting, we had about 6 individuals get up at the public hearing regarding this matter. 4 were in favor of RV parking and covers to some extent, and 2 were in opposition of the proposed changes. After the public hearing comments, City Council directed staff to summarize and answer the questions that were brought forward at the public hearing. Additionally, Mayor Zuber asked members of the public to forward bullet points of their concerns and/or recommendations to city staff to consider when making staff's final recommendation on the proposed amendments, which is in this staff report this evening. Since the last meeting, staff did receive 3 emails in addition to the comments received at the last council meeting, and I did summarize those in the staff report. They went from comments of such as RVs and RV covers should be limited to side yard locations only, not in backyards at all. RV covers should not be longer than the side of the house. Maximum cover sizes should be stipulated, and if the size is going to be exceeded, then the homeowner needs to submit an application so neighbors have a chance to comment. Side yard setbacks for covers should not be reduced to allow covers to be put on the property line. There should be design standards should be created for the covers to at least create a minimum aesthetics threshold. A blight clause should be included in the ordinance so that RVs and RV covers meet a minimum standard. Pre-1988 homes should not be allowed to store an RV in the front yard area if they have a side yard that meets the standards for storage. And then also the last comment we received was caution. This cautions the city from changing anything that would take away from the current status quo. Then goes on to say that they do not want to allow any RVs or RV covers on residential lots. So staff did go through the comments, and we did come up with some recommendations, which are in your staff report. I'll go through this kind of fairly quickly. Stop me if you have a question in the middle of these if you'd like. First of all, parking of recreational vehicles is covered in Chapter 10.56. For pre-1988 lots, as their house is built prior to 1988, the recommendation is to allow 1 recreational vehicle to be parked in the front yard area of private residential property lots. This is standard, no changes to the ordinance. This has always been the case to date, so there's no changes being recommended for that. And then any additional recreational vehicles shall be parked in the side and or rear yard areas of private residential lots. Again, this is just status quo of what we have already. There's no changes being recommended to that at all. There's some staff comments in the staff report. I won't go through those. Hopefully you've had an opportunity to review those. So post 1988 lots, these are when city council back in 1988 decided that they wanted to include a 12-foot side yard on every residential lot within the community that was built from 1988 to current, so that storage of RVs can be stored in the side yard areas and not in front yard areas. So for post 1988 lots, we're saying no recreational vehicles may be parked in the front yard area of the private residential property lot, and recreational vehicles may be parked in the side yard and or rear yard areas of these lots as well. This is same as what the code was in existence already. No changes are being recommended for that. I did put together in the staff report, let's see here. Dan, can you switch over to the images there?
Question while we're on that topic.
go ahead.
Regarding 1988, there could be some houses that were built post 1988, but it's when the lot was created, right? Not when the house was built?
It's when the lot was created, you're correct.
Yeah, so there may be some that were built post 1988, but on pre-1988 lots that don't meet the.
Not many, but yes, you're
But
right.
maybe a dozen or so, maybe something, yeah.
So we did go through, I did go through the community and take some pictures of lots in town that have some RVs stored. These are all in compliance with our code. So a lot of these lots were built after 1988. These typically we have problems, I would think, with people on corner lots that don't have the ability to store an RV on their side yard because corner lots have, they don't have the 12-foot side yard. They'll have like a 5-foot on the interior side, and then they have a street side like you're seeing here. This RV is parked on the side yard area, on the street side yard area of a corner lot. This is in compliance with our code currently. It is behind the front setback, so this is a picture of a lot that is in compliance. Additionally, this is the same type of lot built after 1988. The RV is placed on the side of the house. Actually, the garage is side loaded on this house, so the front door faces the street here that you're looking from, and the RV is parked behind the front setback, so that is also in compliance with our code. This is one in town that is built as where an RV is parked in the rear yard area. This is also in compliance with the code. This is what would be allowed, and it's currently allowed and is still being proposed to be allowed. I think this is kind of our final picture here. This is also one that's on a corner lot. So this is the side of a house. The front door faces another street. They've placed that thing kind of tucked back in up against kind of their side area there. It is behind the front setback of the house, which again does face another street. This was the map that was presented when we started this process a long time ago. We had staff did present a map with the PowerPoint presentation when we did our workshop on it. The green lots, as you're seeing on here, those are all the lots that were built prior to 1988. So those are the lots that don't necessarily have space to store RVs in the side yards. The side yard setbacks for those lots typically were 5 feet on both sides. And then all the lots in red are lots that were built after 1988, and those are the lots that were built to have RV storage on one side of the house. The numbers for those, I did have them in my report here. I think there's roughly 33% of the lots in town that were built prior to 1988, so that's about 1,800 lots in town that were built prior to 1988, and there's about 3,000 lots built after 1988. So the 3,000 lots after 1988 would meet the standards for parking RVs in the side yard. So again, no changes are being recommended for the parking of RVs on these lots. It'd just be what we already currently have in place. Also, no changes are being recommended for parking of recreational vehicles on any public street, or no changes are being recommended for the duration of allowable loading and unloading purposes. So RVs can park on the street for 48 hours prior to departing for an event for loading purposes, and 48 hours after. So if someone's taking a travel trailer out, they can park there 2 days in advance, load it up, go on their trip, come back, unload it, and, for 48 hours if they need that kind of time to clean it up, and then either park it appropriately on their lot or place it in storage where they might keep it. So we are not recommending any changes on that for the duration of loading and unloading. 48 hours does seem sufficient. You could get an event to where someone comes back on from a weekend trip, be able to park an RV there, unload it, and then if they're leaving on another trip, that thing can sit there for a whole week's worth of time or 2 weeks worth of time frame without having to be moved if we did stretch that time frame out. And we don't get a whole lot of complaints about the duration when they are parked on streets. So there's no changes being recommended for the duration of being able to be parked on streets. Staff is proposing to add some additional language into the code for post-1988 lots, so lots built after 1988, pertaining to the parking of recreational vehicles in the front yard area for the purposes of loading and unloading. We did have a comment at the last council meeting where someone was pulling their RV or boat into the front driveway space, and one of the police officers did stop by and reading the code, strictly reading the code. They're not supposed to be parked in the front yard area for loading and unloading purposes, but we do think that's acceptable just as much as being parked out on the street. So if they want to pull their trailer or RV or boat up into the driveway for loading and unloading purposes, that should be allowed, so long as they're not blocking the sidewalk. So that covers chapter 1056 as far as parking of recreational vehicles. The next section that we'll talk about is RV recreational vehicle covers, which is covered in chapter 16-140 of the Ripon Municipal Code, and that's section .060. The recommendations there is recreational vehicles cover shall be allowed in the side yard areas only for residential lots, except RV cover shall not be allowed in the street side yard for a corner lot. So if you're on a corner, you can't put an RV cover between your house and the street on that 20-foot side yard area. If you are putting an RV cover in your side yard, setbacks for such cover shall be 0, excepting that any structure is erected closer than 5 feet to the side property line shall meet the fire resistance rating in compliance with the California Building Code. And there is ways to do that. The other recommendation is recreational vehicle cover shall not be allowed in the rear yard area of any residential lot. This is our current standard now as it stands, as it is, and then we're proposing to keep it the same way. Recreation vehicle cover shall not exceed 12 feet in height. This is one of the proposed changes that however, the 12-foot height restriction can be exceeded upon approval from the planning director with justification for such request. Within our code, if somebody comes in and they need something that's a little bit taller because of an air conditioner or such on an RV, they can come in and show us that the 12-foot height is not gonna work, and we would have to look at the overall height of that RV and be able to approve something that's maybe it's a foot higher than the highest point on their RV. Occasionally you get some of those where the 12-foot doesn't quite cover that. If they have an air conditioner on top, 12-foot might be a little restrictive. So what's included in the proposal is to allow that approval with only a 1-foot clearance. So the heights can't just be a lot taller. It has to be only 1 foot above the highest point. Something that was never addressed in our code before, but we felt it was sufficient to put in here is the number. So we're saying only 1 recreational vehicle cover shall be allowed per lot. And it's one of the points that was brought up as size restrictions. There is a size restriction already defined in chapter 1612 of our code for RV covers. It's 500 square feet is the maximum size for those. So additional items we would like to include in the recommendation this evening would be direction from the council to amend some other chapters. that deal with definitions. In the definitions chapter of our municipal code, chapter 1612, we do define recreational vehicle covers as being that of lightweight material. We would like to update the code to include a picture of what you're seeing on the screen so that people know what they're expected to put up if they are putting an RV cover up. It would have to be, our definition now says it's made out of lightweight material, which the intention was always to provide for these type of covers. However, we have had people in the past build kind of some bigger structures out of wood and such, and I don't think that was the intent. So we would like to clarify that definition. And then also, we do define what is considered required front yards and side yards and rear yards of lots within our code. In the definition chapter, it's all in there without any diagrams. We would like to add this diagram to the definition section too, to really define what's considered required front yards, required rear yards, and side yards for interior lots and also corner lots as well. And one final point here is nothing with the municipal code. We would like to add some language to the City of Ripon's building permit applications, referencing potential CCNRs for residential developments. There's some example language in there that we could put in on our permits. As you know, the city cannot enforce CCNRs within individual developments. However, we do think it's important that we do point it out when somebody does come in for a permit, that they might have CCNRs that they need to abide by within their subdivisions, and that they could be at risk of potential litigation with neighboring properties if they don't comply with the CCNRs. Nothing that we can enforce, but something that we could just at least pass on to them, so they might go back and check their CCNRs and I guess figure out if they want to take that chance or not. So that's the proposals in front of you tonight. I know it's probably a million questions maybe you might have, so I'll stop there and turn it back over to council.
I am assuming that some of you are here to address this issue, so this is what we're gonna do. I'm gonna take some time now for the council. If they have questions of Mr. Zeidebart, then we'll allow people who are here to address the council. Remember, 5 minutes. And then we'll bring it back to the council afterwards for discussion and consideration. All right? Does anybody up here have any questions or comments? I do, but I'll let, yes.
Go ahead.
I just want to get a few things clarified. Number one, if the lot was approved before 1988, the assumption is there is no 12-foot side yard. Doesn't mean it's not there, but that's the assumption. Therefore, the person can park one vehicle in the front of the house, driveway, or the yard, but it has to be on a hard surface.
Correct.
If the lot was approved after 1988, the assumption is that there is a 12-foot side yard. Again, you can park one vehicle, but now it has to be in the side yard area, and I'm gonna get to that in a minute too. And it can have a cover, but it has to meet fire requirements if it's zero lot line. How far back from the lot line can it go before you have to worry about fire?
5 feet.
So it could be a 7-foot wide one and you'd be okay. If it's a 12-foot wide one,
Correct.
okay. Now, I was writing it while I was listening. This duration thing for parking on the street, when's that measured? When it gets to I hate to use the word complaint, when it's reported, when does the city start measuring the 2 days?
That's always a difficult one, because what will happen is we'll get a complaint from someone that an RV's been there for a while. We have to go out and verify it. Code enforcement will go out. It kind of starts at that point. We have to physically see it there, note that it's there, and then go back in 48 hours and see if it's gone or not. So it takes a little bit of time.
So if my neighbor parks his boat on the street and I wait 2 days and then I call the city, he gets 2 more days.
Yeah.
I just want to make sure I understand that, and that we understand that. One of the things that you mentioned was that pre-1988, any other vehicles had to be parked in the backyard or the side yard. If the assumption is that there is no 12-foot side yard, they can't get anything back there anyway, right?
Correct, they'd only be able to have one RV recreation
Okay.
vehicle parked in the front.
And I got that one.
And just a point of clarification here, when we did the workshop, I did share in the PowerPoint, we did a citywide survey of these, and a lot, even some of the older lots, pre-1988 lots, some of the RVs were parked in the side yard areas. So some of these houses that have the ability to do it already. They're just not required to do it.
Right. This one is a comment. These little lot drawings you have, I would suggest that maybe you put 4 of them in here, or somehow label these so that what it looks like for a pre-1988 lot and what it looks like for a post-19, because I get confused. I got confused the last time we talked about them, trying to make that distinction.
Well, the way that yards are defined, pre-1988, post-1988 are the same. So if you're looking at these diagrams with that in mind, that's the same. I think what you're asking for is to have possibly, and we talked a little bit about this, is to have a brochure put together of where you're allowed to park an RV if your lot's built prior to 1988, and then where it would be allowed to be parked if it's built after 1988. And clarify with diagrams like this of where they could be parked.
Something
Is that,
along
I think
those-
that's kind of what you're, yeah. Okay.
My last one is a clarification point, and this has to do with the post-1988 lots. They're supposed to be parked in the quote-unquote side yard. The side yard space extends all the way to the street. Can they put, well, yes it does, because that 12-foot fence is down there. If I drive down the street, I can see it. My question is, can they put their RV in that space between the fence and the sidewalk? Or does it have to go behind the fence?
It does not have to.
Because that question I've gotten, and I don't know the answer.
You're talking a corner lot, right?
No, I'm not talking about a corner lot. If I drive down a block of houses that were approved after 1988, go down Colony Road if you want. Every house has a 12-foot side yard and a 5-foot side yard. The 12-foot side yard, there's a space between that fence and the sidewalk. Lots of people leave it in grass, but some of them don't. And some of them curve it so that they put the trailer a little bit farther back, and some don't. My question is, as long as that space is there and as long as they're not blocking the sidewalk, can they put an RV there?
No, that's the required front yard area of a house. So if you look at the interior lot design here, the standard here, you'll see that required front yard goes across the whole frontage of that lot. They have post-1988, so after 1988, any RV has to be parked behind that front setback.
You got more
Does it-
violations out there than you
Doesn't
counted.
mean, does not mean there has to be a fence in front of it. It just means it has to be behind that front setback. So there is some examples out there where people have it pulled back by the house and don't even have a fence in front of it too.
No, I understand that, but you've also got people that are doing just what I said,
Right. And so,
what I'm
actually
trying to describe.
the code enforcement off of council's direction in the past is starting to get a little more proactive with that. I mean, that's one of the things that you, as a council, wanted to see. So the code enforcement is being a little more proactive and getting out and looking at streets and giving notifications out for those. Again, some of those are a little difficult in the sense that they gotta note down lots and then go check them again, because somebody could have their boat or RV pulled out in that front yard area for either loading it or unloading it to go on a trip, and we gotta verify that it's parked there, so.
All right, anybody else have any questions? All right.
I do have
Oh.
a question.
Okay.
Yeah, as far as the, when we get called or get a complaint, and we're saying that the timing starts basically when we start to verify that. I mean, I guess, there's really no other way for us to do that, so you're really leaving it open to a person leaving it. I mean, if no one complains for a week and it sits there for a week, I mean, there's no way for us to know that without actively going and enforcing it until someone complains, right?
It is difficult because of limited staffing. We don't have enough staffing to get out to check RVs. Now, she is out when she does go out to check other code enforcement, she'll look at RVs parked in driveways and such, but if they're parked on the street, she's gotta make a note to go back out in 48 hours to try to check those. And
Right.
she's been a little more proactive on those, but yeah, it is difficult.
So as soon as if a person, say, pulls it out and their neighbor calls immediately, their 48 hours, I mean, that'll be the way that you actually comply with the code, if someone complained before you actually violated the code, right?
Yeah, and I guess I would be a little cautious on the 48 hours too. I mean, we're not looking to say you're here 49 hours, you're getting a citation. I mean, the idea is to not have these things parked there for storage or weeks on end. And so that's kind of how I think it's been approached.
Any other questions, comments? All right, anyone that wants to address, line forms at your right. When you come to the podium, if you'll give us your name and address, and remember, 5 minutes.
Councilman, we live at 1080 Zoomstein. And by the way, my name is William R. Dixon, and the address is 1080, as I said, Zoomstein. We have a side yard, and I came to the city and asked about putting a fence up, and I put one of the PVC fence along the side of the, I was told it was 25 foot away from the back of the sidewalk. Now, I was a contractor for 25 years in California, so I do know how to read a tape. But I can't imagine parking my boat on the outside of my fence, my plastic fence between the sidewalk and the house. So we're asking for an exemption of this law. There's not a 12-foot setback on the north side of the house. We measured it out today, it's only 7 feet. You can't get the boat in there. So we're locked other than going to find someplace else to park the boat. Secondly, I have a letter from the police department, and I compliment the police department. I have a son that's a captain, and he's a commander over in Menlo Park, and is a sister city to us, and one that's a detective over there. But I am absolutely blown away that they were at our house on 9/6. I was in Idaho, and they gave me to 9/8 to respond to the citation or the notice from the police department. That's a little bit short, I really think. But other than that, I'd like the council to consider, if you will please, the dilemma that we have. And we're parking a boat. I poured concrete in the front of the house beside the driveway in order to back the boat in and park it off the street. It is behind the street, or it is behind the sidewalk. So we would have a real dilemma if we have to find someplace else to store the boat. Thank you.
Hold on, did you get the address? Okay, all right, I just wanted to make sure, all right. Thank you.
Okay, I'm assuming on the 1080, I have more time than the 2 days to respond to the note?
Yeah. Do it as
Thank
quick
you.
as you can.
Thank you.
All right.
Bill Van Nieuwenhuizen, 1505 Country Woods Drive, and I'm just curious about the cost of the permit, if you wanted to put up a cover. Is there a cost?
Yeah, there would be a building permit for that, and that's dependent on the evaluation of the project. But my guess is it's probably gonna be about $150.
Okay, thank you very much.
Good evening, council. Mike Thompson, 1772 4th Street. Can we go through the photos real quick? I have a question about one of them. The one that I believe is on Mill Geo that you took the photo of, that one. That looks like it's parked in a driveway.
That one it's behind the front setback of that lot. The front door faces Miljo.
It's still a driveway. It's where the garage is.
It doesn't say driveway, it says front setback. Cannot be parked in the front setback of a house.
Currently, right now, we're not allowed to park in the driveway.
I think if you're referring to probably a case that you were talking about last time, you were parked in the front setback of your house.
It was my driveway.
Front setback.
Well, I know that house. That trailer is not parked in the driveway. The garage is here, and then it extends to the right, and there's an additional space. It's not, you can still get 4 cars on that driveway.
Perfect. I'm just going by the visual I see right here. Next question I have, or statement I need to make, is that someone brought up the time frame. I would like to know how that's going to be enforced. As I've mentioned before, I've gotten officers showing up on Saturday. If I pull it out Saturday, they show up on Saturday. Now, my problem is currently leaving because they're moving, the ones I know that call all the time. So that's a positive, but the time frame is, it's always off the neighbor's complaint. They never come out and check, and they go, okay, I'll see you on Monday, or we'll see you Wednesday. So I would like to know how that's gonna get addressed.
I think you can understand, based on the questions I asked, I have the same concern.
Okay.
Some kind of standardization's gotta be put in place here so that everybody knows what we're doing. Not sure what it's gonna be, but there's gonna be something.
Absolutely.
Can I ask a question on that a second?
Yeah.
Do we notify the homeowner when, like, at the time, if someone calls and complains, do we make sure they're notified right at that point? Or if they left it parked and they they went to go grab lunch and they're not home? Or do we wait around or how do we notify that person?
I don't know how, the answer to that. I have to check with the code enforcement officer.
And I guess my point is that we should either leave a note on the door or something, some type of notification to that person that, hey,
We need to come up with a process that can be
verifiable,
fairly standardized so that everybody knows what they're up against.
I could probably answer that to a certain degree, Mr. Mayor, and Councilman DeGraff. Each complaint regarding time frame, with the staff that we have, they are not contacting every single RV owner that we get a complaint about. Per the code, there's no responsibility to do that. I can tell you that they make every attempt, or she makes every attempt, to provide the code on the first time that we get a complaint. So the homeowner or owner of the vehicle is aware of the code, and at that point in time, it's their responsibility to make sure they're in compliance. So that's typically how we would address it on a routine basis. Now, I'm not saying that there's not exceptions in there where they do make contact to ensure certain things, but typically that would be how they would respond to each complaint.
I agree that we don't need to notify them every single time that, hey, here's the code and don't forget next time.
Yeah, we were here today at 9 o'clock. You have 48 hours from, we don't do that. It'd be impractical for the manpower that we have to be able to do that.
Yeah. And that's
That'd be all they would be doing all day, every day.
Yeah, and if you, I mean, like you said, if you gave them the code the first time around, they should know.
I
Okay,
think-
anything else?
Yeah, the other thing I'd like to state is I think that you should include the houses before 1988. If you drive up and down 4th Street, they all have huge side access, all of them.
Okay, we will take it under consideration. Thanks.
Thank you.
My name is Nathan, 238 Orange Avenue. I have a corner lot. They built the house in 2004. We have no backyard. I was able to take out 14 by 14 grass and pour a slab for my small tent trailer and my boat. They have covers on them. Is that something legitimate, or am I going to get cited for it? They're not obstructing view or the sidewalk.
I'm guessing you're gonna have to go look.
I would have to, we'd have to verify those lots. If I'm thinking of the right lots there, I do believe those lots were created prior to 1988. Those were the first CRC's parking lot back in the day. We'd have to see when the lots were created. That's when it goes by, when the lots were created. So we'd have to verify that.
Anyone else?
Good evening, everybody, again. My name is Lex Cornell. I live at 1712 Coralstone Lane here in Ripon. I'm very disappointed that the city council really didn't spend this much time to review not only the ordinances, but basically the code structure in this city. This is a mess, an absolute mess. And I know Ken, I know myself, and I know a lot of people who spend a lot of time arguing about this and going back and forth, but it's not going in the right direction. I'd like to ask how many people on the city council have an RV or are planning on having an RV, or if they have it on the side or the back or whatever. Does anybody on the city council have an RV vehicle? Or an RV vehicle meaning any sports RV equipment? None of you do. Okay.
It's not true.
First of all, the problem is, as it is all set up tonight, I agree with a lot of things that Mayor Zuber said about the fact that you're gonna have a problem with enforcement for one main reason. You ain't got any enforcement. So no matter what all of us sit up here and talk about what somebody wants to do, they're gonna do, because I'll tell you, it's Murphy's Law to the max. That picture right there, when you're talking about on the side of the house, or you're talking about people that are after 1988 are now gonna be putting their boats or vehicles over on the side. I don't know if they're gonna consider that you could have a cover on that if it's outside of your fence line, but I thought, as Ken has talked about, if it's after 1988, you can't put anything like that in the front yard. But what you're doing by doing this here is you're opening up a huge can of worms that people are gonna start putting things in any spot on the property. It's not gonna matter where. If they can fit the damn thing in, they're gonna put it in there. If they can put a cover on it, they can put a cover on it. Your sight lines are gonna be disrupted. That picture right there is a good example of what's really, excuse my French, butt ugly. It's a corner lot, but you're gonna have the same problem if you've got all these little shed tops down the line. If people start putting things on the side of the lot, regardless, because you've opened it up now, if it's pre or after 1988. That's just not reasonable. You've also got that you can have 500 square feet that can be undercover. Well, if you have a 12-foot side yard, you can run a 40-foot bus into that thing and park it. That's ridiculous. The other thing is, you have no restrictions on how many numbers of RV-type vehicles you have. I've got people in our neighborhood which are not chased down by the CC&R group that have got boats, they've got trailers, they've got RV mobile units. They got them all over the place. But that's an enforceable thing by the CCNRs, but the city's leaving it open. Even with your talking about having this in the record is going to be warning people that they should check with the CCNRs if they have those in the development. But with 500 square feet, if you have no restrictions on the length of a vehicle that's gonna be there, you got somebody's gonna have a 40-foot bus in there. In our CCNRs, it's limited to 18 foot 7 inches. But if you put up a 40-foot building and put a RV vehicle in there, what's gonna be in the rest of that thing on the side? Or if they don't have a 40-footer, if you're gonna have a canopy that's gonna be over a 40-foot section on the side yard, what are they gonna do, use it for storage? Is there anything to modify that? No, because you don't have an enforcement. But it's on the books, it's in the codes. And the codes have to be looked at and changed. You haven't changed those codes, some of those codes go way back, way back. You need to take some more time to take a look at this, because you're opening up a real Pandora's box by what you guys are talking about doing tonight. And I am shocked that 6 people got up here to talk last time. It was pretty much evenly split. But only 3 people in the city of Ripon with 4,000 houses have any damn concern about what's gonna happen if you open this thing up this much? That's crazy. Like I've said before, just think about what it's gonna look like from the streets and out of your houses, looking around you in the backyards of your neighbors. It's gonna be hell to pay. You need to reconsider a lot of what has not been changed. Even though Ken spent a lot of time doing this, you really didn't change much. The ball didn't move very much. I appreciated the note about the CCNRs, but basically, this didn't move anywhere, anywhere. You've got to start thinking about what's going to happen if you do what you are looking at tonight. I hope you will do that. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else?
Mark Morale, 645 Bob Way. Just have a question, Mr. Zuber, when you were speaking to you referenced the number of vehicles allowed behind your fence on the side yard. You mentioned 1. Is that in the ordinance? I don't believe I read it there.
No, the recommendation is for 1 RV cover.
One cover, but not one.
1 RV cover.
Yeah, but not 1 vehicle.
Right.
Okay, I just wanted to get that clear. Thank you.
Anybody else? What? No. All right, we'll bring it back to the council for consideration. Any other questions, comments?
Not that I'm gonna say right now.
What does that mean?
I'm done saying my piece,
Oh.
I guess. I was gonna say something, but no.
Well, the question is, where do we go from here? This is an item on the agenda for first reading and introduction. If it's read and introduced, it can still be amended. If we do nothing tonight, it'll be another 30 days before anything gets started. So it's up to you.
So what are you asking for us at this point? What do you need?
I need, if there's a motion, make it. If there's a second, make it. If there's not, nothing. If you want to abandon the whole concept, then it stays with the language that we have now. If you want to make changes, this is the vehicle you do it.
Well, I would say from my standpoint, it's very confusing, and I agree with a lot of the concerns everybody has. I would vote no tonight if it's introduced in a motion and second. I vote no. So if you want to continue on, or you can
Well, there's no
pass
vote
on.
because there's been no
Well, I'm
motion.
saying, if someone does, I'm just letting you know how I'm going to vote.
Then what would you change about it?
I don't like the backyard, and I don't like the,
I thought we removed the backyard.
the
structure's not
the
in the backyard
backyard.
Yeah.
You can park an RV in your backyard.
You can right now though, right? So if we do nothing, you can still park it in your backyard.
And I don't like the way the cover portion is set, that you could put it right up against the fence. And plus, there's a lot of other pieces in there that I've got notes all over that I didn't even bring tonight because I've talked about them in the past that I stand by still.
Man, I think if we do nothing, the only thing that's gonna change at this point is you're not gonna be able to put a cover over it. Basically, it's the only difference, right?
Right. Well, there's some yards that might be more than 12 feet wide that could fit it in and meet the setbacks. Setback's currently 3 feet.
Right. Yeah, so they might, some might be able to build it currently because they've got a 20-foot side yard, they've got a big lot, they could, under current code, still build it. But, really, the only difference is if we made the changes right now, is you could build on a standard 12-foot side yard, you could put in a structure that's actually wide enough to do something with, only in the side yard next to the house. That's literally the only change. There's a lot of words that are being changed, but that's the only thing that's gonna change, is that you can build a structure to cover up your RV. Where you park them, the amount of time you can take it outside of it, none of that will change. So, I mean, if it's up to me, I think it makes a lot of sense, but
So in essence, what we're doing is just giving the public more flexibility to do with their property what they want to do with it, to be able to put in some of those structures. So I'm with Daniel. Within limits, yeah. So, I mean, I like the fact that we removed the structure from the backyard. I think that was a good thing to do, and I'm with Daniel on this one.
I've got a question. How many people come and ask, or apply to, or, inquire about building a structure in their side yard right now?
I don't have those numbers. I mean, there is a few out there. If you drive through the neighborhoods, I don't know how many have been permitted and how many have been put in. I mean, there's some that date back quite a ways before my time here that, I'm not sure if they permitted those or not. I don't know if, Ted, I'll recall any?
It's kind of hard to say. We'd have to go back and look at the records, but if I had to guess, I'd say there's probably 5 that were permitted in that area that meet that regulation.
Yeah, I don't see that there's gonna be a mad rush to build RV covers, but.
Everybody good?
Well,
So I was just gonna say, I will make a motion that we waive the first reading and adoption.
Do we have a second? Apparently not.
Apparently not.
I'll second that.
All right,
As you may.
we have a motion and a second to waive the first reading and introduce the ordinance. Cast your votes. All right, so we're moving on. Was there anything in this whole discussion that came up that would necessitate any kind of adjustments to what you have already? Because if there is, we need to get it done between now and the next meeting, right? And then consider it in the second reading.
I don't necessarily think in the ordinance per se. I think I did hear from the council that you guys would like some better mechanism or structure in place for enforcement of the 48-hour or parking of RVs on the streets. And that's something I'll get with the police department on, with the code enforcement, to figure out if there's a better way to notify. Maybe it's a tag that goes on a vehicle or something that would allow that, that's when they would be notified. Yeah, I don't know if she reaches out to everybody. We'll have to go through that process a little bit more. It's not in our ordinance, it's just more of our standard policy, the way we
All
handle
right.
it.
The other thing I'd like you to work on is some sort of, I don't know whether it's a fact sheet or something, but something that organizes this so that if somebody comes in and says, I'm thinking about buying a boat, what can I do with it? That you can hand it to them, and it doesn't mean you read 14 pages of stuff and say, what? Because that's what happens with these ordinances. They move all over the place. And I think we need to clear it up a little bit. All right. Moving on. Next item is item 2B, which is an ordinance. Oh, this is the one, the extension of the agreement with Calvary Reform.
Yes, this is the second reading and adoption of the one that was last month.
All right. Anybody have any questions? This is going to move it to 15 years, right?
Yes.
Okay.
I'll make a motion that we accept the ordinance.
I was gonna second.
Well, you're too slow, buddy.
Nope, I got it.
You may be young, but you're slow.
All right, cast your vote. You can check with Mr. Parks when he gets back. Nothing happened.
Jake didn't vote, it's waiting for him.
Oh,
Next time we gotta bring nuts out.
no,
here.
they overrode him.
Oh, there
All
you go.
right,
I got it.
that works. Okay, item 3A, the sycamore trees. Who's gonna handle that one?
I'll take that, Mr. Mayor. Previously, the city council received a petition from residents living on South Jacktone regarding or requesting the sycamore trees that were planted in the parkway or the bike path be removed because of the mess the trees were producing. The cause of the mess is the seed pods that the trees produce, which then dry out, drop each year, and this little seeds blow into the neighboring yards. At the July 11th council meeting, staff presented 3 options to the city council to address the issue. One was to try an application of a fruit eliminator and monitor its effectiveness. The second was to remove and replace the sycamore trees. Third was to do nothing and monitor the issue. This year, we did have a lot more of the debris fall from the sycamore trees for different reasons. There's a lot of factors in how many of the seed pods are produced each year. Weather's big part of it, how much water the trees get, the frost conditions and wind. After hearing from some of the residents living on Jacktone, the city council asked staff to produce or to provide additional information regarding the application of the fruit eliminator, and if the trees were to be removed, establish which trees would be used to replace the sycamores. As it relates to the spraying of the trees with the fruit eliminator, city staff has reached out to UC Davis and local arborists to discuss the options to eliminate or mitigate the seed production. The application, by applying the fruit eliminator, would reduce the amount of seed pods that are produced each year. The product is sprayed on the tree canopies during the early spring to eliminate the seed pods from forming. The arborist has recommended 2 applications in the spring of each year. It's difficult to estimate the effectiveness because of all of the factors that affect the seed pod production, but it's been estimated that spraying the trees would reduce the seed pods by 30 to 50%. The recommended product is called Pharrell, and our arborist has stated that the sycamore trees are on the list of the manufacturer's label. The seed pods have already formed on the trees this year and will be dropping this fall and spring of next year. The reduction of the amount of debris from the trees will be unknown until the fall of next year, after the tree or the fruit eliminator is sprayed in the spring. If the city council wants to move forward with the spraying of the trees, staff would recommend that we thin the trees also, which will reduce the amount of seed pods. And then also, when the seed pods start to fall and the mess starts to become, we would do additional daily street sweeping and actually put signs out to promote no parking on the streets so that we can get a lot of that debris up off the streets. If the city council decides to go that route, it's estimated that spraying of the 70 trees along Jacktone, that would be on both sides, both the north side and south side of Main Street, the cost would be approximately $1,400, or excuse me, $14,000. If the trees are to be replaced, city staff is recommending that we replace those with the Chinese pistache, the Keith Davies variety. This Chinese pistache grows to be 35 feet tall, 30 foot wide. The Chinese pistache is a fairly fast-growing tree with a broad, rounded canopy, which would kind of match the sycamore canopies that are there now. We've planted these trees throughout the city in different parks and areas, and we've had very good luck and success with these. Staff has estimated the cost of the removal of the trees and the replanting of the trees would be approximately $60,000. I have included in the staff report a map of the trees that we currently have within the city. These are both city-owned and city-maintained trees, along with subdivisions that have had the sycamore trees planted in them. So this sycamore issue is citywide. It's not just here on Jacktown. So one thing the city council may be interested in doing is coming up with a policy, getting a policy in place describing how to determine if the street trees that the city maintains are to be removed and how to request that, taking in consideration things as structural weakness, disease, infected insect infestation, destructive root systems, obstructions of driveways and entranceways, sidewalk and curb improvements, and new construction. If the city council is interested in developing a policy, staff can draft the policy and bring it back to the council at a future meeting. Staff is recommending that the sycamore trees on Jacktown, the city council consider thinning them, using treating the trees with the fruit eliminator in the early spring, and then monitoring the trees with that, and then going from there in the future. So I'd be happy to answer any questions.
I got a question and a couple comments. I don't know if anybody else has anything with that. I'm talking before, we were possibly looking at the variety of tree and or whether or not they were a different species or different breed of them. Did we ever get a determination of what they were, if they're the same as what's throughout the rest of the city?
There's three different varieties. There's the two varieties that are around town are the Bloodgood and the Columbia. The Columbia is the most common or the most popular because of their the disease resistance, and that's what we've got on Jacktown. On Doak Boulevard, those are the true Bloodgood. The ones on Fulton, those are Columbia. Majority of the ones in the subdivisions are Columbia also. So they're all pretty much the same species.
Okay. I guess from my perspective, with as far as the fruit eliminator, is there any concerns with the amount of trees, that particularly next to the school, with spraying them, and any withdrawal periods or buffer from the school that would be required to put that out as a good application for those trees?
When we were discussing it with the arborist, he didn't have any concerns. He knew the area, he's looked at it. They certainly would have to take in wind and which is typical for any kind of application of herbicide or a treatment, but they would certainly take that into consideration at the time they treat it.
Okay. Another concern of mine, I guess, is say it's 30 to 50% effective. I don't think fixing 50% of the problem is necessarily good enough from what I've seen from the problem. I don't think it's going to get any better long-term by waiting. It's going to get, if you continue to spray it, it's going to fix part of the problem for long-term. And I think a different tree is probably a better option as far as I'm concerned, and would be in favor of taking out the current trees. So I mean, we can discuss that more, and then I think creating a policy for, you know, as staff recommended there is a good idea, but, yeah, I have concerns with trying to alleviate the problem at this point. I don't think it's gonna solve the problem.
So Ted, so the concern that I have about this is that I think the policy's great. We need to have a policy because we're probably gonna be asked to do something like this again. The concern I have about, they call it an eliminate. We had an arborist actually come over to our place some years ago, and we had olive trees, and it doesn't eliminate the fruit. It just kills the fruit and it drops. So the same problem exists, it's just you get it sooner when it kills them and all that stuff drops. And it was probably about a 50 or 60%. The rest of it went to fruit and all the fruit fell. So it doesn't kill it all. That's one of the problems. So what do we go to? The arborist came out, we came through all kinds of different things, and we just got a little old quarter acre. Never not work, so we kept trimming. You had to trim and spray, and we still couldn't eliminate it, so we had to put like a nail in the tree to stop it all or something. We still get it all now too. It just, that stuff just doesn't necessarily always work. And I talked to my brother-in-law who does walnuts, and that stuff, you know, it's a hit and miss. And it could just be the hit of the way the temperature is at the time, the microclimate. There's so many variables if that stuff works or not. So that's been my experience with those fruit reducers, not eliminators.
Yeah, maybe a reducer based on
Yeah.
that. Yeah.
I have a couple questions. These pistache trees that you're recommending, are they evergreen?
No, they're not.
So all those leaves that you show on that picture that are red are gonna eventually hit the ground?
Yes.
So instead of a bunch of seed pods, we're gonna have little tiny leaves blowing all over the street?
You're, with any tree would have
Okay,
that.
I'm just, yeah, but they're a lot bigger.
You get the pods in.
These things stay in, Chinese pistache stays in like a
Okay.
hand-shaped leaf. It's usually not all individual leaves, so.
They're a very small, feathery
No,
looking
I had
leaf.
some at Ripon Elementary. I know what, my other question, what size tree if we replace them, what size tree are you gonna plant? Because if you're gonna put trees out there that are as big as my thumb, half of them are gonna die. And then the other half will get broken off because some kid wants to take one to school and beat somebody with it. So well, I'm just go driving down Fulton Avenue and look at the sycamore trees that are there. There's probably a half a dozen that at some point were broken off, and what you have is the second growth coming up, and it's at a 45-degree angle. If we're gonna do this, I'd rather spend a little more money and get some trees that are 2 or 3 inches in diameter and have a chance to survive.
The trees that are on Fulton, those are in the private, the areas that are adjacent to the private homeowners that went through during the recession. A lot of them, those didn't get water. They've never been properly trimmed. All of the trees on Fulton, all the trees on Jack Tone were all planted with a 15-gallon, and that's what's being recommended, is planting with the 15-gallon pots. According to our folks who have a lot of experience with this, you can plant the bigger trees. They're quite a bit more expensive. To get a 2-inch diameter tree, you're gonna be spending close to $500 or $600 for just the 48-inch pot. You have to go to that large. That's gonna cost a lot more as it comes for prepping it, because we're gonna have to prep a much larger area, get the roots from the old trees ground out even further. Our experience has been that with the smaller trees grow much faster as they start to adapt to their environment. So our recommendation is to plant the 15-gallon pot, get it staked properly to prevent kids from tearing them out. Our experience is it works a lot better to plant the smaller trees than going with the larger one. But we did get some prices, and To get the 2-inch diameter, which would be about a 48-inch pot, would be another $500 to $600, plus the additional prep work per tree.
We planted a few of them probably 3 years ago now that were 15-gallon pots, and they were like probably 6-inch diameter trunks at this point. They're a pretty quick growing tree, so I don't think it's that big of an
My
issue.
only other concern is, once we do this one, you know what's gonna happen.
Oh,
That's where the policy
Gotta
comes
get
in.
policy.
And
You can laugh all you want.
You can't write a policy to take away the complaint about seed pods and stuff being dropped.
You can write a policy, whatever you want to write it
Well,
for.
but then are you gonna, will this be a violation of that policy?
I don't know, I haven't seen a policy.
So are you saying write the policy, then make this decision?
No, I'm saying make this
Make a
decision now, since
decision.
I've heard about it for 5 or 6 years already.
I'll make a motion for it. I make a motion that we remove the trees, replace them with a Chinese pistache, and then before approving any other removal of any trees, we come up with a policy that we can all agree on.
Second?
Did you vote?
No, it's up to me.
Dean didn't vote, did he?
No, Dean has.
I voted. Maybe you didn't register.
There we go.
Okay,
Start working on a policy.
item 3B is the property tax sharing agreement.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The city does have a property tax sharing agreement with the county. That agreement actually just expired July 1, 2019. The city, all cities are required to have that agreement in order to be able to annex land into the city. There was a study done by San Joaquin County back in 1996. That study has been the basis of the split in property tax between the various cities and the county, and the county themselves. Generally, cities receive 20% of the property tax revenue and 80% goes to the county. For cities that are smaller, and the study in 1996 had a threshold of a population of 20,000, those cities that were less than that threshold received 36.6% of the property tax rather than 20%. Since 1996, our agreement has slightly been modified related to that threshold. The most recent agreement that we have, the threshold was changed from 20,000 residents population to 18,000. So that accounts for about $120,000 a year of additional revenue to the city because of that. We have talked to the county about that at length, and they have agreed to, once again, increase that threshold back to the 20,000 where it was in the 1996 study. But with that, they have requested that we enter into a 17-year agreement. Initially, they were requesting a 7-year agreement. So with that, staff is recommending that the council consider approving the agreement and authorizing the mayor to sign. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Kevin, I just have one question. On page 3, at the bottom, it says, capital facilities fee, city shall contribute to county's funding for regional facilities, et cetera. Does that just mean we go through, what are those, SB 1600 or some sort of study? Does that mean we have to do another one, or we just have to comply and agree with the one we've got and do it as we normally would?
Yeah, my recollection is they do the study. We collect the fees based off their AB 1600.
Okay, so they do it and they tell us, here's your new contribution. And we agree to collect it for them and give it to them.
Right, but we
Okay.
would have the ability to review the AB 1600 report that accompanies that fee recommendation. So you're your partners essentially in it, and because they lack the police power to collect fees in our jurisdiction, and we lack to collect in their jurisdiction, we need to have an agreement that allows us to share that power mutually.
And it's no different than what we're doing now with some of
No.
the, okay, all right. Thank you.
Do we have any guesstimate of when that $20,000 population figure is gonna become an issue?
I don't have it in front of me right now, but based off our current.
Less than 17 years?
Based on our current growth rate, it's actually probably pretty close to that.
Okay.
Really?
I would say between 15 and 20 years, so.
Okay.
And I would say that's probably that is the intent of the county, is that you would surpass that threshold within the current agreement.
Right, because once we get there, this agreement is basically over,
Yes.
right?
Well, the
You
new-
still have the agreement, but you would have the 80-20 split.
Right,
like all the
that's what I
other
say.
cities. Right.
Yeah.
But in 17 years, then what?
You-
We get to start all over again?
You still have to have a property tax sharing agreement after the 17th year, unless you would either extend this one or negotiate another property tax sharing agreement. And who knows what's gonna happen between now and then in terms of how they allocate land use.
One question I have is, does this, when it goes to 80-20, is it on all sales tax or only the sales, or property tax, or only the property tax on the land that comes in after we reach 20,000?
We asked that question to the county, and it was the land that came in after that threshold.
So we keep everything we've got now?
We keep the 36.6.
Yeah, it does,
Okay.
oh, I see your question, yeah.
Yeah.
6336 prevails in all the areas in which it originally applied, and the 80-20 applies in the new areas.
Okay.
Yeah,
And it also talked whether it's in the fire district or not in the fire district. I mean, there were some pieces of this
yeah,
thing that.
whether detached or not. But
Yeah.
if you look at our scenario,
We have a consolidated fire district, so.
Right, exactly.
It's pretty straightforward for us.
Okay. So you need just a motion to approve the agreement?
yes.
I'll make a motion. Good job negotiating this, Kevin and Tom. Good job. Well, Kevin, good job.
I would not have put a lot of money on us being able to regain what was lost in the earlier, Kevin did a great job on
Yeah.
this, so.
He's nicer than you.
Item 3C, congestion mitigation and air quality grant application.
Yes, that's me. So the Congestion Mitigation Air Quality, or CMAQ program, is currently soliciting projects. And this is to provide air quality improvements or provide congestion relief. And staff has evaluated and has found two candidates. One, the East Main Street Traffic Signal Project, which would go on East Main Street in front of Angle and the Highway 99 on and off ramp. So traffic signal for that area, as well as a CNG garbage truck purchase. There's no minimum to the number of applications we could submit, and staff is asking direction to submit an application for both projects. For the traffic signal project, a traffic survey would be required, and which is also included in this item. We would need a level of service of D, as well as some other evaluations from that survey to have a competitive application. The overall fund cost estimate for the East Main Street traffic signal is $600,000. The proposed CMAQ funding would be $400,000 with a $200,000 local match from the transportation fund. The garbage truck is a total cost of $375,000. We're asking $100,000 for the CMAQ and $275,000 local match from the garbage capital fund. Any questions?
With that traffic signal project, is there the possibility that Caltrans could get involved and relative to lengthening the off-ramp? Because once That's the one thing I've always wondered about when people have talked about a traffic light there. Right now, you're only there as long as the traffic makes you stay there. If you put a traffic light in there, you're there for as long as the signal doesn't change. And I can't believe they're not gonna start looking at how far back you're gonna back up onto the highway.
I'd say this, just with, go ahead.
Well, I would say we still have to talk to Caltrans, and we would have to go through the encroachment permit process with Caltrans to evaluate if that was in their past environmental studies.
Yeah, they would typically look through that when we go through our environmental process with them. What they would do is probably some mitigation measures or add some mitigation measures to that signal project. They may widen out and have, kind of dual lanes there. I know they've got some room there. But they would come up with some type of mitigation measures. They'd also be in control of the signal, basically because it's touching 99. So they would have operational control of that traffic signal once it's implemented.
Well, the reason I ask is, all right, let's assume they want mitigation. They pay for that, or are we in trouble now because we got a grant to put a signal in and we don't have the money to mitigate?
Yeah, we'd have to kind of look at that with Caltrans. Typically, they're not going to add to that. Now, we could probably make a pretty good case that, this is a real benefit for them as well. They're typically not putting, ultimately Caltrans would put a signal here, but they're going to wait until this is an F or F for many years. So, we may be able to work with them as far as convincing them this is a benefit for all parties here. So.
I don't disagree with the proposal. It's been an adventure dealing with them sometimes, and I hate to go into it without at least understanding what we might be up against.
Yeah, I don't disagree. That's gonna be a tough light, because where you're talking about the on-ramp, if it's gonna be metered, that thing's gonna back right up into the intersection. It's gonna be a challenging, well, you're an engineer, is it gonna be challenging? Look at it.
No, I got a simple solution. For the next year, just drive, when you take that off ramp, take it at like 3 miles an hour, so it has to back up, and they'll have to fix it.
But you're exactly right. The Colony Hoff Signal project, that's something that they made us extend that left turn lane for the off-ramp, and that one's a lot longer. So there were some minor mitigation measures there, but to do exactly what you're talking about, give yourself some more stacking distance. So.
How are we doing on that project? The Colony Hoff.
So we just received the E76 letter, so we have 6 months to award the project to construction.
So it actually might happen.
It's planned to happen, yes.
The Colony, McDonald,
the design
we're
is
gonna put a
completed.
signal light in there. All right, so we need a motion, to approve the application or recommendation?
Second.
There we go.
Oh, we had a 5-0 vote tonight.
Oh, we've had two.
Crazy. Okay, Chief, you're on.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, Honorable City Council, members of the general public, thank you for being here. I do have a few items to report on. The first item was from the last council meeting, where Mr. Mayor asked for a report on the illegal dumping incidents that were occurring at the recycle center on Industrial Avenue. Since March of this year, the department has investigated 21 cases of illegal dumping at the recycle center. Of the 21 cases, there are 25 defendants. 17 of those cases are infractions. 4 of those cases are misdemeanors.
And the difference is?
The difference is a misdemeanor citation is in excess of 3 cubic yards
Okay.
of debris. And we rely on our Public Works Department to advise us on that. Of the 25 cases, 6 of them are closed, and they have accepted plea agreements with our city attorney representing the city in court, or were found guilty. From my understanding, 2 of the cases have gone to trial, for lack of a better term. One pled during the trial and with an agreement, and the other one was found guilty. The punishment or fine is $1,000 and a year of informal probation. We initially reported prior to that the fines were just above $1,000. The extra fees are court fees. So typically, they're leaving court with $1,050 in fines and fees. We have 15 cases that are still in progress. That means they are filed with the court and the defendants are waiting court dates. And then we have 4 that have recently been sent over to the city attorney's office, and the city attorney has mailed letters to the defendants, but their court cases have not been filed yet. We're waiting for, the city attorney has the opportunity for the defendants to resolve the matter prior to court, and usually they have 30 days once they receive the letter to do so. If they don't take care of the incident within those 30 days, then the court case gets filed. So just for information-wise, the first civil penalty is a $1,000 fine, second penalty is $1,500, and the third is $3,000. A correction, I said 3 cubic yards, it's 1 cubic yard for a misdemeanor. And for the misdemeanor, you can receive up to 6 months in jail with a civil fine of $3,000 for the first offense, $6,000 for a second offense, and $10,000 for the third offense.
So the 3 misdemeanors are the second set of penalties you just talked about. Is that right?
The misdemeanor would be the up to 6 months in county jail, and the $3,000, $6,000, and $10,000 fine for subsequent violations.
Chief, did you notice any trends with those? Because it seems like that since March 21 cases have been reported. That's about 1 a week? Are they all spread out about that evenly amount, or did you notice any trends with when they occurred or anything like that?
Ted might be able to answer that question a little bit more, because the Public Works is usually reporting those incidents to us. But from my experience, they tend to occur on the weekends. So usually on Monday, when the Public Works crews coming in, they're identifying the information or identifying the violation. They're going back through and then cleaning it and then coming to make a report with the police department. At that point in time, we review video surveillance with our new equipment that's down there. Then once we have identification, it goes to a detective or officer, depending on who's available, and they investigate. Once they investigate, they complete their report and documentation, then it gets forwarded to the city attorney.
Okay, cool.
Thank you.
Any questions on the illegal dumping? The other 2 items are going to be much quicker. Just wanted to remind the community that on Wednesday, September 18th at 6 p.m., we will begin our Community Police Academy. It'll be our first night. We currently have 15 community members that are participating, and we're looking forward to it. So staff has been busy preparing for that night.
What time?
6 p.m. And just one item for information, on September 18th at 2 p.m. in the Emergency Operations Center, we'll be holding a retirement event for Officer Ken Hoosman, who's been with us for 21 years. He has 24 years of law enforcement experience. Again, 21 with us, and he had a couple years with Oakdale and Houston Police Departments as a reserve officer. So I just wanted to publicly thank Officer Hoosman for his service, and his last official day will be September 20th. So again, we just want to thank him, and we appreciate his commitment to our community.
Mr. Johnston.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I wanted to report on our water usage. Last month, we had a 15.2% reduction from the 2013 number. Last month was a very hot month, so I think that's due for the reduction in the increase in the reduction. That brings our 12-month average to a 25.4%. So we're just kind of staying pretty close to the same each month. We continue to, our water conservation coordinator continues to be out leaving notices. Last month, we issued 58 notices to people that were in non-compliance, watering the wrong days, wrong times, and those sort of things. So that's it.
What happened to the sign at, what is it, Miss? Where the traffic signal's gonna go in?
Yes, that, somebody stole it. It was a banner type sign. We've got a new one ordered, and actually it just came in yesterday. So we'll be installing that, and then here shortly we'll be changing the signs out for the new watering schedule.
Okay, thank you.
It was a little tattered anyways.
Yeah, it was probably time. Mr. Stevens?
Conveniently stolen.
Mr. Zeiderbart?
Yes, I drew the short straw on talking about weeds. In our
Weed or weeds?
Weeds.
Oh.
Not weed, weeds.
That's good, get interest.
I do think council wanted a report on how I think our current process handles weed abatement here in town and some of the lots that we struggle with. We kind of tag team with the fire department on this issue. When the weeds are all green, the fire department doesn't really have an issue with them because they're not a fire hazard. So our code enforcement officer goes out and starts notifying property owners of the weeds on their property that need to be mowed or removed, and starts sending out notifications. She gets a fair amount of compliance that way. When they get to a point to where they're dried out, then they also get notices from the fire department as well. The current process we have is a very tedious and time-consuming process in the fact that we send out notices. If they don't comply, they send out citations. Give them a certain time frame to comply, they get more citations, and it just keeps going back and forth. In that regard, we just keep citing more and more. We don't have a very good mechanism for recuperating our fines. So I think one of the suggestions that we'd like to get from council is to look at the current code enforcement in regards to weed abatement. There's some I think the county has a very good program in place where they send out notifications for property owners. They give them a certain time frame. If they don't comply, they go post the property, and then they go out and take care of it. With that being said, if we bring that ordinance back, we will be asking the council to pony up some money at the time to go out and take care of some of these, because we are going to incur some costs. However, we would like to also have a better mechanism in place for recuperating that money. With that being said, there's, I think, a lot of the properties that catch quite a bit of the attention of our community. It's going to be property that we don't have a super easy ability to maintain, and that's the Caltrans right away coming down like the Main Street overpass. And if anybody's seen social media in the last few weeks, they've probably seen a big flurry of complaints about weeds and trees over there. I don't necessarily know us going out and maintaining that and then citing Caltrans is gonna get much traction there. So that's gonna be something that the council will have to decide too, is if the city wants to maintain that a little more regularly and, I don't know, eat that cost or whatever. So we would like to start amending our ordinance though to give, I think, our code enforcement the tools necessary to deal with some of these properties that, most of these people are absentee owners that bought property that, you know, speculated on property and they live somewhere else. They don't have to look at it. They don't care. So we'd like a better mechanism to deal with that so we don't have to look at this stuff within our community. So that's all I have if you have any questions.
Proceed. Mr. Peace?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just real quick, I wanted to provide council with an update on our large pickup item program. So we're at the tail end of our third year with implementation. We've got two dates left, September 17th and October 1st. It's been widely used. I think it's been a successful program. We're averaging about 40 pickups per scheduled event. It runs through from April to October. It's every 2 weeks. They do it on a Tuesday. This year, to date, we haven't had to have to turn down anyone. or turn away anyone. They can pick up to about 60 a day, and like I said, on the average, it's been about 40. And an average per year, we're getting about 150,000 pounds of material hauled away, so. Total, yeah, correct. So, yeah, that was it.
All right, thank you. Mrs. Quillisi,
Nothing else to report.
Mr. Terpstra, Mr. Werner. Nothing to report. Mr. Euchre.
It's freezing in here, let's go home.
Mr. DeGraff.
Oh, just as usual, thank you to the members of the public who are here enjoying the council meeting. So we appreciate your input and you being here. Thanks.
Mr. Restuccia.
Yes, I have something to talk about. SB 192, I don't know if you all know what this is or read this, but back in 1872, there was this law called Posse Comitatus, to where if a police officer was in trouble and asked you to help, you had to help if you're an abled person. Otherwise, it was a misdemeanor and a $1,000 fine. This supermajority and governor decided, you know, forget about the infrastructure problems. Forget about the unfunded liabilities. Forget about the water. Forget about all that. Let's slap our law enforcement in the face one more time, because nobody I talked to even knew about this law existed. So they opened up something that's meaningless. I've talked to several of our cops, Tracy cops, and sheriffs, and they just believe it's an absolute slap in the face. Everything else this supermajority, this governor does. And I will tell you, I believe the morals, ethics, and values of the people of this state are higher than people in Sacramento, that if a cop is in trouble, they're gonna help whether they ask for it or not. This is just absolutely ludicrous, and it just fries me.
What does the law do?
It says, well, the cop says, hey, help me, I'm getting beat up or whatever. You're just able, you look at him and you don't have to do a doggone thing about it.
Pull out your cell phone and take a video.
Before you were fined, I mean, it was punitive anyway, it was not a big deal. But this is just a slap in the face. They could have just left it alone, but they keep attacking our law enforcement, and someday that's gonna come back and bite, unfortunately.
Completely unnecessary too.
Completely unnecessary with all the other problems the state has.
Nothing to report?
You sure?
I'm sure.
I have one question. The Safe Route to School project over by Parkview. I see the light posts are finally up. When's that thing going live? I do get asked.
We're hoping by the end of this month. MID is, they've got to set their meters in those pedestals, and that should be ready close to the end of this week, first part of next week.
Okay.
So we're hoping by the end of this month to get those up and going.
Gonna have a ribbon cutting or something? No?
But there'll be some announcements. We're putting some stuff out on Nixle, letting
Okay.
everybody know how to.
All right. Meeting's adjourned.